Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you all for taking the time to come tonight. Sorry, I'm not the speaker of the night, but just started off. Parenting is the most important job we all have in our lives. And we hope that tonight's lecture will give us all some tools to add to the parenting toolbox and enlighten us in the fundamental keys to raising children. Just before we start, I'll say a few things. Obviously, many know, some don't know about SEM. SEM stands for Sephardic Beit Midrash of the Hashad community, obviously. And we started it maybe almost 10 years ago. It was my cousin, John Levion, Rabbi Nathan Zablani, and myself, with the help of many other people. Thank God we were able to start and, continue year over year, improving, expanding under the guidance of our Chief Halachic Authority, Rabbi Eliyahu Ben Chaim, and Moreno Rabbeinu Nisim Batzayan. The SBM has given an opportunity for all community members, a place to learn Torah, an opportunity to learn, to grow, to enhance themselves, to get closer, and to really, experience all different avenues. We have the privilege of having our own community Rabbanim, teachers, men and women, every day, every morning, every night. We have, different classes, different things available, all different, stuff you could find online, you could find on WhatsApp, on Instagram, or any of the other places. And of course, if anybody ever wants something one-on-one or wants to arrange something in their office or in their home, you can always reach out to, me or any of them involved, and we'll try to help you as best as we can. Lastly, this summer, we were lucky, with the help of Mrs. Biton and my cousin Elisheva Agimian, and amongst them many other women involved, but with their help, we were able to start a women's program through SVM, and it's an amazing thing. So I don't know whoever has come to the different classes or different events or different things that have gone on, and it's really tremendous, and we plan to be continuing. There's more events coming that they'll talk about, and more, different stuff going on. But really, we need to, say a big thank you to them that, they put the time, the effort, and energy to help make all of it happen. So without further ado, I'll ask my cousin Elisheva to say a few words and introduce the speaker.
So really, he hates attention, but we have to acknowledge SCM and all the incredible work that they have done for the community, particularly for enabling this event to happen. And just a quick overview, the women's program under Rabbanit Biton provides classes each semester, 2 classes every night. We have events, guest speakers, and something for everyone at every level. Some of the upcoming events: we have Rabbanit Biton Parsha class every Wednesday morning for ladies. We have this Sunday night at Or Esther, a Mind, Body, and Soul event with our very own community interior designers and speakers. Dina Kaladi is going to be starting a parenting series in November by sign up. And in our fall semester, we're actually going to be having a live kosher kitchen class where we're going to have community members coming and doing a cooking demo, and Rabbanit Biton adding her advice and input on how we can implement that into our homes to keep a kosher kitchen. So I just want to quickly thank everyone who was on the committee and who put in all the hard work for tonight. Danielle Achavan, Charlene Basalali, Rivka Biton, Claudia Debutzadeh, Melanie Amatian, Dina Kaladi, Natalie Kamali, Jasmine Kashimala, Karen Koren, Alexa Levian, Shira Levy, Regina Sians, and Rose Shamash. We really appreciate all of your hard work. I know it seems like one night, but so much goes into it and all the details, and these ladies came today, helped set up, really put a lot of time and effort into it, so thank you. And we also want to thank the couples that helped sponsor tonight's event: Sasha and Simon Ibrani, Rachel and Kobe Gorgian, Natalie and Joe Kamali, Naomi and Jonathan Levian, Alexa and Josh Levian, Vanessa and Michael Levy, Kelly and Yoel Levian, Regina and David Sians. Without any more delay, we are so honored to have Blimie Heller join us tonight. I personally took her parenting course 5 years ago, and I grew tremendously. I told all my friends in 2017, go follow her on Instagram, she's awesome. So Blimie Heller is world-renowned parenting coach and educator. She's originally from Toronto and now lives in Lakewood, New Jersey, so it took her quite a while to get here tonight, and we're so grateful. Her love of parenting comes out in all her speeches, blogs, consults, and especially her parenting posts on Instagram, where she has become famous for her unique style of gentle and respectful parenting. Blimie Heller is known to use imaginative examples and practical tips to guide parents through a paradigm shift on the true meaning of chinuch, education. She explains that behavior is communication, and when our children behave a certain way, they're actually trying to communicate with us. So we're going to let's listen to her teach us how we can better communicate with the ones we love most, our children. And if anyone is interested, just to let you know, she gives a live Zoom course that's also recorded twice a year. The next one is in January. And whoever wants can go onto her website, blimieheller.com, yeah, and you can join the wait list for that. And we hope to bring you back again. Thank you so much. Welcome, Blimie Heller. Oh, I'm sorry, wait, one more thing. Our very own community school is starting, and we are so honored that we have this opportunity in our community next week on Tuesday, November 1st at 7:30 here. Even if you are not thinking of sending to the preschool, we urge you to all come and learn about it and show support.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just gonna interrupt one more minute. We have a raffle for dinner for two at Doma. We're gonna draw it at the end of the night. So don't leave right away. We have it here and we're gonna draw it afterwards.
I am so honored and excited to be here. I want to thank Elisheva for reaching out to me and asking me to come, as well as the entire committee and the creator of SBM. I forgot his name. I apologize. Ever since I was little, I was always fascinated by human beings. Why do some people end up doing the most horrific things, like become a serial killer? And honestly, I researched that for a few years. And why do some people become so altruistic, like taking in people during the Holocaust, even though when it was a danger to themselves, taking in Jews during the Holocaust? And I always gravitated towards books like that, and that inevitably led me to parenting books, because a lot of it originates in childhood, apparently. After reading a lot of these books, I really decided from a very young age that I was going to be the best mother ever. And I was pretty certain that I would be good at it. Well, it turns out, many years later, or not so many, I became pregnant with my first child. And when she was a baby, it's challenging and hard. I thought I was doing a pretty good job. And then she got older. And she didn't develop. She always had a mind of her own, but it started showing up. And she would start resisting me. As young as 2 years old, you all know when the nose stage starts. And she wouldn't listen to me. And she wouldn't follow my commands and my wonderful advice and ideas, and she wouldn't cooperate. And I found that very disconcerting. I was very upset by it. And I also was really worried about it, because from what I understood, children needed to know that I was the boss, I was the authority, and that they needed to follow me and listen to me. And if already at this age she was not listening to me and already showing that she doesn't care not to listen to me, it scared me a lot. I had a lot of conditioning, a lot of ideas around what it meant to be a parent, what it meant to be a mother specifically for myself, and what my role was. And I didn't even realize that I had this conditioning, these tapes running in my brain around what it means to be a parent and what I should expect from my child. And those tapes, those conditionings, she needs to know I'm boss, and I can't let her get away with that, and she needs to listen to me. were causing a lot of friction between me and her. My child, my beautiful oldest, is very strong-willed. At that time, I didn't like that very much. Thank you all for waiting. At that time, I didn't like that very much about her. I was like, just stop, having a will. Just, your will should be my will should be your will should be my will. Just follow me. And I didn't really appreciate that. Now I see that as a most beautiful gift. She's really the reason why I shifted my parenting, because there was a lot of friction. And every single day of parenting was just dreadful. We would find ourselves in power struggles all the time. And I remember picking her up from daycare and even getting her to go into the car with me was a battle. And she'd be like, no, I don't want to go. And I remember resorting to all kinds of things that I didn't really want to, but I felt like I had to. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. Like first with the bribes, if you come into the car, I'm going to give you this, and then the threats, if you don't come into the car, you're not going to get that, right? And I would find myself in situations constantly, and it was getting exhausting and really, really dreadful. And I started hating parenting. I really did. I started I remember just dreading picking her up from daycare and being like, I don't want it to be time to pick her up yet. And at the same time, remember, I really wanted to be a good mother. So I was kind of conflicted, this is not the way it's supposed to be. And I know that there's something different out there, but it's not what's right here. And I remember I continued on like this for a while because I didn't know anything different and I didn't know what else to do. There was one story in my mind that stands out as the turning point, even though I'm sure there were many of these moments. She came home one day from school. She was 4 years old at this point. I told her to hang up her school bag. Are you familiar with the school bag? Yeah. So she dropped it on the floor. I told her, we need to hang it up. No, I'm not hanging it up. You hang it up. And of course, immediately when she said that, there was already a little bit of fear in my body. I'm like, she thinks she can speak to me that way, and she's telling me what to do. She needs to know that I'm the one who tells her what to do. And so immediately I was like, no, you're going to pick it up, and you're going to. And so it started this whole battle, power struggle, back and forth, where she was like, no, I'm not going to, and it's yes, you are. And then I started, of course, threatening her. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it really went on for a long time. I'm embarrassed to say, probably for a half hour. Really. Back and forth, and with her insisting and I insisting, and we're just going like that with no one's letting up. And as this is happening, I'm getting more frustrated and more angry. I'm thinking, she cannot think that this is okay. I have to get the last word in. She has to listen to me. Otherwise, I'm losing everything as a parent. She needs to know that, And eventually, after a half hour of going back and forth, she was so exhausted, she burst into tears. When she burst into tears, I'm scared. I wasn't scared then, and I'm embarrassed to admit that I actually mostly felt victorious. Yes, now she's going to hang up her school bag. There was a tiny part of me that was terrified that I felt that way. It was like, she's your child. Where's your compassion? And then, so I let her finish her cries. And when she was done, I went back to the school bag, of course. I could not let the school bag go. And so I said, hey, your school bag, and she still, bless her soul, still insisted on not doing it. And so we came up with a compromise. I said, you know what, fine, you hang it, and you pick it up a little bit, and I'll do the rest of it. This is a true story. And so she picked it a little bit, and then I did the rest. And when I picked it up, her school bag felt really heavy. Now, in those days, I sent her to preschool where I had to send a lunch along for the day. And I was like, why is it so heavy? So I opened it up. Her entire lunchbox had not been opened. She hadn't eaten anything. Okay, so you can imagine the guilt. I started, all of a sudden, this realization came over me. I was like, she didn't eat. She's starving. I should have known. She was pretty sensory, and sometimes she had a hard time eating, especially with certain textures or whatever. And I was like, how could I have been so consumed with what I needed from her as a parent that I couldn't see what she needed from me? And of course, at that point, I gave her food and everything, but I went to sleep that night, and I promised myself, I was like, I am finding something different. I am going to search the world. and find out what is my role as a mother. How am I supposed to do this? What's a way to do this in a way that brings joy to me, brings joy to my child, that meets my child's needs and doesn't blind me in this way where I completely don't see my child's needs because I'm so consumed with doing a good enough job or being the mother that I need to be. And so it was a long road, a long journey. I searched and searched. And first I came across all the stuff that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, like the charts, which I've been doing for a while anyway, and the 1, 2, 3 magic, and the timeouts, and all the things that I had already been trying that were failing us miserably. And I was like, I don't want to see that anymore. And then I remember I was on Facebook, I came across a post. Her name is L.R. Noss, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. And it was a post, I don't remember what it was about specifically, but it was something like the relationship you have with your child is the most important thing. And I remember, and she explained it, in depth or in detail, and I remember I was like, yes, that's it, that's it. She's touching on something that I know already, and it's speaking to me. And so that led me down a whole path of finding doctors like Dr. Gordon Newfield and Dr. Marshall Rosenberg and different neuroscientists like Dr. Stephen Porges and Dr. Mona DeLohook and different neuroscientists, psychologists, and therapists who were starting to understand children and how they develop and what they need and what our role is as a parent. And it completely transformed and shifted the way I saw everything as a parent. Now it was wonderful. I became so excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, it sounds great. The hard part, implementing it actually into my home. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. Ideas sound great in theory, but then when you have to actually do them, it's so much harder. And I remember being like, okay, the relationship is the most important thing, so right now I'm just going to focus on. And it was really, really hard to remember that. I remember moments I got so frustrated I would find myself yelling and then thinking like, you're not supposed to be yelling right now, you're supposed to be understanding where she's coming from. And then I'd feel so much shame that I was doing that. I was like, now you're a terrible parent. And then I was like, oh, forget it, I'm a terrible parent, fine. So I'm just going to continue yelling. And I remember it was a lot of that back and forth. And then I would think, I'm done. Okay, it sounds like a great idea. In theory, all these people have wonderful ideas about the relationship being the most important thing. I'm not one of those people. I would leave this behind. But then, inevitably, I would just come back around to it because it resonated with me as truth. It spoke to my soul. And I didn't really, like I said, I really wanted the joy to come back to parenting. I wanted a relationship with my child. And so inevitably, I would come back to it. And after a while, I started seeing shifts. I started seeing myself respond a little differently and do things a little differently. And then I started seeing shifts in my child. Now, don't get me wrong, she did not change. She's the same person. However, her relationship with me, the way she related to me, changed. We stopped having so many power struggles. She started trusting me much more. We were able to work together much more. And I really loved what I was seeing. And this is what created this insane, intense passion that I have till today, that I think I'll probably have for the rest of my life, to share this information with other parents. So what's this information? Well, I already said one part of it, and that's really the essence of it all, is that the relationship with your child is the most important thing. Now, there's so many questions when I say that. What does relationship mean even, and why is the relationship the most important thing, right? So when I say the relationship is the most important thing, I'm specifically talking about something. I'm talking about something very specific. Does anybody want to take a guess? Nobody. It's okay. Connection, emotional connection. That is really the essence of a relationship, because our children are physical beings, right? So of course we take care of them and we do all those things and meet their needs, which are very important. But at the end of the day, your child's inner experience, their emotions, their feelings, is really, for all of us, is really who we are, right? Most of us will not identify somewhat with our bodies, but who are we really? It's our inner experience, our feelings, our thoughts. And when we connect to that in our child, then we're truly connecting to them. And that's when they feel seen and heard and connected. That's the relationship. So why is the relationship the most important thing? There are so many reasons why. I'm going to go through a few of them. Let's first start with the scientific reason. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through a whole science lesson. Very brief. So babies are born with their brains not fully developed. I didn't know any of this, by the way. Maybe some of you do. But if for those of you who don't, it's not fully developed at birth. There are parts that are and parts that aren't. The parts that are responsible for survival are fully developed, of course, because the child needs to survive. So they'll cry when they need food or when they feel scared, right? All those things are already in place. The part that's not fully developed is right here in the front. It's called the prefrontal cortex. That part of the brain takes actually 20 to 25 years to fully integrate and develop in the brain. That part is responsible for self-control, emotional regulation, problem solving, complex thinking, executive functioning, all the things that we would associate with a mature adult. This is why children are so immature and do not have the capacity to regulate their emotions, to think critically, to think logically, to solve complex problems, and to have impulse control, self-control. That when an impulse comes into their body of, I want to hit this person, they have a really hard time stopping themselves. Now, this prefrontal cortex actually develops according to the environment that the child is in. So if a child's in an environment that there's safety and there's attunement and there's connection, studies have shown that those brains of those children, the prefrontal cortex of those children, develops more optimally. All of us want our children to have all these skills, correct? We want them to develop as soon as possible. And so having a safe and attuned relationship with a child actually helps that part of the brain develop. I see some people finding themselves. Are they hot? Are we hot in here? Yes? Okay. Thank you. So that's one reason. The other one, and this is about mental and emotional health. I'm sure every single one of you really wants your child to grow up to be emotionally and mentally healthy, correct? Now, Dr. Bessel Nederkolk, who is a Dutch psychiatrist, is famous for his quote where he says, "The parent-child connection is the most powerful mental health intervention known to mankind." Again, it's not a guarantee, but it's definitely a predictor. So the parent-child connection directly impacts a child's mental and emotional health. And so we want to create that safe container, that safe relationship where children can develop emotionally and mentally as best as possible. Another one is that, think of it like this, okay? If you have water and you want to pour it for somebody to drink, for me to drink. If I don't have a cup, then if you pour the water, it just goes everywhere, correct? You need a vessel. You need a cup to contain that water. Think about it like this. We have so many values, right, and teachings that we want to give over to our children. We can give all the teachings and all the things in the world is like the water without a vessel. Sorry. The relationship creates the vessel within your child for the values and the teachings to be transmitted, to be received within the child. Another one is that connection is a human need. On the list of needs that humans have, connection is a really, really important need. That means every single one of us needs connection against our will, whether we like it or not, we need it. And so children need it too. They come into this world needing it. And if they will not receive it from their parents in the way that they need, then they're going to seek for it elsewhere, wherever they can get it. Johann Hari is known for saying that the opposite of addiction, thank you, is not sobriety, it's connection, right? Because many times, actually, people will turn to addictions or to different things to fill that void of connection. Even though it doesn't look like connection to us, but it fills that void. Or they may go to people who aren't safe or who aren't the best people to go to. The healthiest people your children can get connection from is from a safe and attuned parents. Another one is that really connection is at the cornerstone of what inspires cooperation. Right? A child is more likely to cooperate with a parent whom they feel connected with, who they feel really cares for them and has their emotional best interests at heart. And of course, all of us want cooperation. Clearly, I really want that. We need their cooperation, really. Now again, it's not a guarantee. It doesn't mean your children become into robots and completely lose themselves because they're connected to you. They still say no, they still have a mind of their own, but it makes them much more likely to be willing to cooperate. For those reasons and more, the relationship with our children is the most important thing. And so that's really what we want to focus on. And so everything else that we do is viewed through that lens. Everything is filtered through, is this going to bring more connection with my child? Is this going to grow our connection or maintain it at least? Or is this going to take away from it? And that's really the bottom line of how we view everything. That's, if you want to make it simplistic, that's really it. Now, of course, there's so much that goes into that. So I'm going to give you a few different tips and ideas of how to build that emotional connection with your child. How does one do that? So let's first talk about a very important concept that Elisheva already mentioned. Behavior is communication. Now, what does that actually mean practically? All right, so every single behavior that any person, not only children, every human on this planet displays, comes from a need, a feeling and a need. For example, we all have a need for food, correct? Okay, if I have a need for food, and my need for food is not met, I will feel hungry. Okay, then because I feel hungry, then what might I do? Eat, hopefully, if not, maybe I'll yell, right? I'll be hangry. Either way, it leads me to some sort of behavior, right? Okay, so that's what happens. We have a need, the need is met or unmet, then we feel a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling. If it's unmet, unpleasant. If it's met, pleasant. And then our behavior comes from that. So, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a list of needs, but there's a universal list of needs that you can look up online. We all have it, every single one of us, same needs. And your children have those needs too. Every single one of their behaviors originates in a need. Now at this point, many people say, really, every single one? Sometimes they do things for no reason. There's always a reason. It doesn't mean that there's like something deeply psychologically missing. We're just saying that every behavior is driven by a need. Need, which creates a feeling, and then, right, the behavior. And so, once we understand this, it changes everything. Because the way I was raised, or my generation, the way I used to parent, was that behavior was simply behavior. And if it was unpleasant behavior or inappropriate behavior, I just needed to get rid of it. So, I would try to find all kinds of tactics to simply get rid of it. Punishments, reward, whatever. Just get rid of it. Inappropriate behavior, done. I like to compare it to when somebody has a broken leg. Okay? If you have a broken leg, you'll be in pain, correct? Now, if you're not very smart and you don't realize like, oh, the pain is a symptom of a broken leg, you might say, I have pain. What do I do about the pain? Oh, painkillers. So then you take painkillers and the pain does go away. But it takes a few hours, it wears off, and then the pain comes back. And you're like, oh, the pain is back. What do I do? More painkillers, right? So you keep taking the painkillers instead of ever addressing the broken leg. And then after a while, maybe your leg starts to heal, but now it's like crooked and you're not walking straight. It's the same thing with behavior. When I focus on just the behavior and how to get rid of it, I'm simply addressing the symptom. I'm saying, painkillers, let's find a punishment to just get rid of this. But the need that the child had was not addressed. First of all, maybe it was not met. Maybe it was. But it's not addressed. The child, we completely overlooked where it was coming from or what was happening for the child. And so if you realize that we're not helping children in that case. Because if a child's behavior comes from their needs, then how else are they supposed to learn other strategies to meet those needs if we simply just make the behavior go away? I'm going to give a practical example for all you to understand. Okay? Let's say you have your child here. And they go over to a sibling, if they have one. They go over to a sibling and they whack the sibling over the head. Okay? Out of nowhere, unprovoked, just whacks the sibling over the head. So now, the child with the sibling, if we're only focused on behavior, we say, you cannot hit, do not hit, that's not nice to do. You know, whatever we do with that. And so we're telling the child not to hit, not looking to do great. However, why did the child hit? What's the need? Stimulation. They were bored and seeking stimulation. The strategy that they came up with was whack sibling over the head. It's really interesting. Baby starts crying, mother comes running, father comes running, everyone's screaming. It's wonderful. I'm not bored anymore. So therefore, that can be a strategy that a child comes up with. Now, if we look at a child and we say, oh my goodness, were you hitting because you were looking for something to do? And the child says, yeah. And so you say, wow, I get it. I sometimes also don't know what to do and sometimes look for things to do. The child needs to understand they're trying to solve the problem to meet the need in the best way they know how. They don't, like you said, they don't have good problem solving skills either. So you say, oh, when you're bored and looking for something to do, you can come to me and ask me, I might be able to help you, or you can do this, or you can do that. And what you're doing is you're starting to help your child understand, oh, I have a need. See, children have zero awareness. By the way, adults don't either usually. I have a need, and I was trying to get it met. Okay, I can get this need but a different way? Cool. Now, does it mean next time you're not going to whack sibling over the head when they're bored? No, because they still lack self-control. So they still have a hard time pausing before the action. It just comes into their body like, oh cool, we bumped hit my sibling, and they just do it without pausing before and saying, oh wait, parents said last time that it wasn't such a good idea and I should come to them. They have a hard time doing that, but with age, with repetition, and you keep doing that, they start understanding. They start getting the message of, oh, yes, I have a need right now. Oh, maybe there's another way for me to meet it. Maybe I can go to my parent, maybe I can figure it out myself. And my dream, hold on, let me drink. My dream is that we live in a world where adults understand this and know this. How many of us adults also resort to all kinds of unhelpful strategies? You know, like I say, most of us know only three things, either aggressive, passive-aggressive, or passive. When we don't like something that doesn't go our way, there's only strategies we know. Most of us don't either know what our needs are or how to find another way to meet them. And if we start doing this from a very young age with our children, we're really giving them the tools for success. But not only that, what we're also doing is we're helping our children retain their sense of goodness. See, when a child goes over and whacks their sibling, and we come over and we say, no worry your sibling, that's a terrible thing to do. The child immediately, I mean, you can all relate to this. If, let's say you did something that you weren't supposed to do, and someone comes over and says, I cannot believe you did that, right? Immediately, we feel this sense of defensiveness, this sense of like, you think I'm a bad person. You don't see that really I didn't have bad intentions, or that I really didn't mean to do that, or I mean well, right? We all immediately sense that because each of us deep inside, we all do have goodness. We're all a soul that's infinitely good. And we know that. We know that without even anybody telling us that, and we sense that about ourselves, and we will defend that. We will defend ourselves against feeling or thinking, or anybody thinking that we're a bad person. And so then we might develop all kinds of strategies around that. We might blame the other person back, or we might just feel terrible about ourselves, we might become full of shame. But the point is that when we recognize that there's a need, like going back, if you did something wrong, and someone goes over to you and says, gosh, was it that you were really trying to do this or that, or was it that you immediately get a sense that the person sees my good intentions, or they trust that I'm a good person underneath this. And that's what we do every single time we understand what the need was behind what our child did. We're sending them the message of, I trust that you're a good person. I see that you have good intentions, or that you didn't mean, maybe you did that, but underneath that, you don't intend to be malicious or cause harm. And that is so important for our children to feel like they are good people. Like I said, when we feel like we're not a good person, many times that's when problems start coming up. People who don't feel like they are good people tend to either not act like good people or develop many different strategies to convince themselves and others that they are good people. Another thing that this does, going back to connection, this is really at the cornerstone of emotional connection. When you see not just your child's behavior, not just what's observable, it's very easy to see what's observable. It's very easy to see just the behavior. But what about the child's inner experience? What about what's happening inside of the child? That we don't see. But if I turn to a child and say, were you feeling I'm connecting to what is happening inside of them. And then they feel seen, and they don't feel alone, and they feel connected with, however you say that, right? And they get a sense of like, oh, my parent knows me, my parent understands me. And so it's so wonderful, this idea is so all-encompassing for me. And it really, really is paradigm shifting and changes the way we do everything. And really addresses so much of the way that I now try to parent. Try. Emphasis on try. And so let's take this idea of behaviors, communication, of feelings and needs, and take it a little further into a few different examples. Okay? By the way, at the end, I meant to say this at the beginning, I'm taking Q&A. I love interacting with people and taking your questions. Oh wow, so we're already, wow, this time goes by fast. Okay, especially when I'm speaking. So let's talk about how we bring this into what's actually happening, okay? So children, let's talk about feelings for a moment, right? So remember I said needs create feelings. Now, when our children feel unpleasant emotions, most of us aren't too happy. Some of us, we all have different reactions based on our own experiences, based on our own upbringing, based on a lot of different things. But a lot of us are really averse to it. We really don't like unpleasant emotions. We don't like crying, we don't like anger, we don't like frustration, we don't like sadness, disappointment. And so when our children express those things, many of us immediately want to shut those things down, or rescue, or fix, or save our child from them. But the thing is about emotions, unpleasant emotions, is that there's nothing wrong with them. They're just sensations in the body. And they're essentially messengers that are telling us, oh, I have an unmet need right here. And those emotions simply show up in the body, and they're meant to move through the body. They have their own path, their own job, and they don't need any help, really. So the emotions that our children feel, even the unpleasant emotions, what we want to do is we want to simply allow the emotions to be. Now, at this point, sometimes I get questions of like, wait, hold on, so if my child's like really angry, kicking and screaming, and hitting everybody else, just let it be. Emotions are not behavior. We accept all emotions, we don't accept all behavior. Now, at this point, people say, like, how do we do that though? So, like, you say it's okay to be angry, but you can't hit me? Exactly. It's exactly what we do. So it's okay for them to feel whatever they're feeling, but not all behavior is okay. So, right, it's okay for you to have the unmet need and therefore that unpleasant feeling, but that strategy that you're using, we need to find something else. That you can't use, but I'm here for your feeling. I'm not going to try to shut it down or make it go away. And so when our children, this happens all the time, and with younger children, usually the feelings are much more intense because like we spoke about, emotional regulation is still developing. So when children feel emotions when they're younger, it's usually like on steroids, right? It's like all over the place. Tantrums, and their whole body, it's a full body experience. And many times people think like, what do I do about tantrums? I need to tell them, they need to stop. They need to know that it's not okay to do that. They need to know that it's not such a big deal and not everything in life, right, will go their way and it's okay. And they have a lot of intense, really, stories and reactions to emotions. But really, our child's expression of emotion is very understandable based on their circumstances, based on their unmet need, and also is very understandable based on their age and their development. The younger a child is, the more intense their expression of emotion will be. Also, the more they'll be upset about things that seem pretty insignificant or really silly to us. Like a child might cry as if, you know, their house just burned down when a little toy of theirs broke or fell, right? We're like, it's just a toy, it's fine. But for them, it's their whole world. Like, what do they care about? They don't have to worry about finances and, you know, taking care of the bills and buying a house. They don't have to worry about those things. They worry about these things. This is what's important to them. And developmentally, that makes sense. We wouldn't want a child worrying about finances, right? So we want children, this is what children worry about, this is what they care about, and their emotions make sense for the circumstances. And when we allow their emotions to be, and we simply we don't try to fix it or manage or save it or make it go away, we're sending a message, so many messages, but a message of trust to our child of your feeling is not too scary, not too bad for you, and not too scary and too bad for me. We can both handle it. It's okay. Now the thing is like this. Most of us, growing up, emotions were we sense them as a form of manipulation almost. When a parent would feel very, very angry or very upset, many of us would get really, really scared and be like, oh, you can all of we want, and we would morph into what they wanted us to do or to be. And so many of us, emotions are really scary and really intense, and it feels like someone's trying to manipulate me with my feelings. We'll hear many times parents say, when my child doesn't get their way, they cry, they tantrum, they're just trying to manipulate me. And the thing is that a child doesn't even have, a young child for sure, doesn't even have enough developmental capacity to manipulate you. But also, it's just their feelings. We might feel manipulated because of our history with feelings, because we feel controlled by feelings, because we're so afraid of the feeling, and we're like, this needs to stop, I don't need to stop, and so we do what the child wants. But the child is simply expressing their feelings. And that's okay. They're allowed to simply express their feelings, and we can simply let it be. This is a very, very big and hard topic for most parents. I found this incredibly hard in the beginning. I'm still learning. So many things that our children do we don't recognize are really feelings. Simply feelings, like when a child complains. It used to be when my child would complain to me, I would start thinking like, she's so ungrateful, she doesn't appreciate anything you do, and I would say it to her. I would say like, if you're not grateful for anything, then I'm just not going to do it. And I only started realizing later on that I was the one who was giving it all that meaning. Who said she wasn't grateful? She's simply disappointed right now about this thing. It doesn't mean she's ungrateful about everything else, every other thing she has. And so when I started to understand that the emotion is simply right now, this emotion I can simply let it be, it doesn't mean a million different things. Then, so many things started changing. Emotions stopped having such a strong hold over me. And I can let my child just be and cry and be sad and be upset, because children, they are upset and sad and cry often. And so understanding that has been so, so helpful and transformative for me as well. Now, I'm sure when I share all of this, some of you might have some maybe guilt come up or shame of like, oh my gosh, I haven't been doing this, I didn't do this all this time, I didn't understand this, I've been berating my children all day, I've been threatening them, or I haven't been letting them feel their emotions or whatever it is, and it's so normal and understandable to have those feelings come up, and I have so much compassion for it. I feel it all the time as well. And I want to remind all of us, all of you, or myself included, that none of us are perfect. We're all learning. We're all on this journey. And every single one of us is capable of change. We're all capable of shifting and changing things, not magically, not one day to the next, but slowly, by being intentional and adding different things into our parenting. We can really shift the way we navigate things with our children. And recognizing that it's okay for me to make mistakes. Guess what? Mistakes, you can always repair them. So if you made a mistake with your child, you can always go with your child, even many years later. I have apologized to my 11-year-old daughter for putting her in timeouts when she was 3 years old. We can always repair with our child. We can always bring up something and say, earlier I said today, I said that, actually, I apologize. I know that it probably hurt you, and I didn't really need to say that, or I didn't want to do that. Repair is always possible, and that's the beauty of relationships. Relationships are about emotional connection. And when we repair with a child, when we apologize, we're taking that emotional connection and we're strengthening it. And so actually mistakes are just part of every relationship, and they actually tend to build trust. Repair builds trust instead of decreasing trust. So with that, I will end this talk, even though I have so much more to say. But I really want your questions, because I find that makes it very practical and helps people really have things to take home with them. So your questions are welcome. How are we doing it, Alicia?
Hello, do you want to pass around the mic? Yeah. Pass around the mic. Yeah,
Oh, sure. Oh, okay.
Whoever has questions can ask it, and then afterwards we will.
Hi.
Hi.
You made it sound easy to figure out what your kid wants when you said, oh, they're bored, and that's why it's. How do you figure that out? Or it's usually the hard part.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love your question. Can everyone hear me? Do I need the mic? You can, no? Yeah. Yeah. I love that question. It's a great question. So it's not easy to figure out what your children need. And by the way, it's okay if you don't always know what it is that they need. What matters is that you're trying, that you have that intention, that you recognize, oh, there is something driving this behavior. Even just that already sends a message to your child of, I trust you, I know there's goodness inside of you, and I care about our relationship. However, to answer your question, what I did, I took the list of needs. I went to the MDC website, by the way, all people can find it there. There's like a list of needs. I printed it, I put it on my fridge, and I would look at it when every time my child would do something, and sometimes not in the moment, because I would be losing it in the moment, but afterwards, sometimes I would think, what could the need possibly be? And I'd go through a few different things, and then I would go to my child and say, was it that you were feeling this, or was it this, or needing that? And sometimes I wouldn't even ask them. I would just, in my mind, think like, oh, maybe it was this, or the other. And so I slowly trained myself to think in terms of needs. I still don't know why my children do things certain times. I have no idea sometimes. And like I said, it's not that I always know. Sometimes I'll guess if I don't know, but sometimes I don't even guess. I just hold the intention and the trust that there's a need underneath it. And of course, sometimes practically we need to know what it is. Like I said, in those situations, asking your child. Now again, when you ask your child, don't ever ask your child why. Why did you do that? See, many times when I talk about it driven by a need, they think, just ask my child, why? The child has no idea why. Because I wanted to, because it was fun. They have no idea why I did it. If I ask an adult, most of them say, I have no idea why I do what I do sometimes. So your child has no idea, A. B, a lot of times they act defensively when you ask that, like, as if you're attacking them. And so that's why I actually like to guess. That's why the list of needs is really helpful. So like I said, I'll look at the list and I'll be like, maybe they were looking for belonging or connection. I'll say, were you really wanting to mommy to pay attention to you? You know, and I guess. And your children will be, some people say like, well, what if your child says yes and it really wasn't? It's okay. It's fine. It's fine if it's not, but most of the time children will correct you. They'll say like, no, I wanted this or I wanted that. And it's really helpful when you guess. So that's what I do. I use a list of needs and then I guess and guess and guess. And you'll see, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Like at this point, I usually can see children who are not my own, strangers, in the pizza shop, at the mall, and I can tell you most likely what their need is when they're losing their minds or whatever, and I want to go over to their parents and tap them and say, do you know what's going on with your child? Can I tell you what your child's trying to communicate to you right now? You become really trained that way, that you start thinking in terms of that.
What are the most common needs?
The most common needs, so really all of them are common, but for children, a lot of times it's autonomy, meaning like a say over my own life. I want to decide how to do it. Play, stimulation, connection. Connection is a huge one. Under connection falls a lot of different needs underneath that, like attention and belonging and being seen and being heard and understood, all those. I would say that though, and of course the physical needs like food, eating food. They can also act out because they need food, right? And sleep, things like that. So I would say the physical ones, connection, play, and autonomy are usually the ones that you'll see the most that come up. Underneath those are little ones. So if you look at the list of needs, you'll understand it better. Yes? Do we? Okay, so the question is, I'm not sure I'm clear on it, is that when they're having attention, when to know to just let them be sad about it or upset about it, or when to give in, when to do, okay. So I don't think there's, I'll tell you for myself what I do, yeah? I check with myself, and I check with, do I believe that it's beneficial for me to give them that thing, right? Or would it be okay, would it be fine? And if it is, and I do. And if not, then I hold my boundary and I let them just be sad and ride out the wave. So it's really more about me and what I believe is best for my child. Now, sometimes you might say no, you can't have that thing right now, but then when they start crying, you realize, it's not such a big deal. And so at that point, I might change my mind and say, and I'll say, you don't have to change my mind. You know what, you're right, it's fine, you can have it. Or if I really believe, no, this is not a good idea, I'll stand by my boundary. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
Okay, I can do this, and my mom will be like, oh, she's just hungry, it's okay, I can do it again.
it's fine that you did that because you were hungry. And so here's the thing, it's really simple. It's really as simple as just saying, that's not okay to do. So if I guess, I always follow it up with like, whoa, but that's not an okay way to meet that need. So if my child does say, let's say you're really hungry, you need something to eat, I'll say, oh, when I'm hungry, it's also really hard to act in a way that's kind. But it's so important to always be kind, no matter how we feel. So that's all. I just add on top of that, I'll say, the need can exist, but your behavior is still not okay. It doesn't excuse anything. In fact, just the opposite. We need to find another way for you to meet that need. That's not acceptable. And I'll actually help my child find another way. Like I'll say, next time you're really hungry, what can you do instead of yelling or hitting? So you can say, Mom, I'm hungry, which they probably won't be able to do next time. Yeah.
What do you do in the morning without your daughter or son and having a tantrum in the car and going to school? You sit there and have a discussion while it's going
Yeah, well, you know what, here's the thing. In those situations, it's really hard, right? But I mean, I think everybody heard, right? Getting your child out to school, the car stops on a tantrum, right? You just sit there and have a discussion. First of all, sitting through your child's feelings has nothing to do with having a discussion. Those are two different things. Usually when a child's in their feelings, they don't want to have a discussion with you. It's just let them be. But sometimes, yeah, like real life happens, right? You're rushing, you have to get to work, the cat just get out of the car, so you just shut them out. I do that too, don't worry. I'm saying ideally what we want to do in situations, right? It's about what we do most of the time, not in situations where it's like, oh, what do I do? We're normal, we're human, we're parents, you know, your child will be fine. Yes.
So do you feel there's any place for negative behavioral conditioning?
What do you mean by negative behavioral conditioning?
Punishing, removal, possession.
Yeah, so if you're asking me personally, my own belief, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily the right way, but for me personally, yes, I don't believe there's any room for that. I don't believe, now, when I say that, I'm going to add a caveat, but I personally don't believe in punishing my children, putting them in timeouts, withdrawing things, taking things away. I believe that it really erodes connection and trust. Like, how great would you feel if, like, your wife, I think that's her, would randomly be like, well, now you're going to punish me because you yelled at me, so you're going to go into your room and we're going to leave you there, right? Or I'm going to be taking away your phone for one day, right? So how do you feel towards her? Right. So it's not the greatest thing for relationships and for trust. We really want our children to trust us and feel like we're a safe space and they can come to us and tell us about their problems and the mistakes that they made. If they feel like we're going to punish them, it can make it scary for them to do that. They can never trust. So I don't believe in doing that. However, here's my caveat, okay? I believe in something called the protective use of force. So that means, let's say my child, my teenager, she's not yet a teenager, but when she becomes a teenager, she takes my car, right? And she drives my car, and I have rules about how you're supposed to drive it, you're not supposed to use your phone, whatever. And let's say she does use her phone and she drives the car, okay? So the first time she does it, I'm going to have a discussion with her. And I'll say like, what was your need? I'll say like, oh, yeah, what wanted to like connect with your friends while you were driving? So, I'll have a discussion with her. And I'll say like, this is not okay, let's find strategies to make sure that like this doesn't happen again, or etc. And then if it happens a few times, then I might say something like, you know what? I need to keep you safe. I need to keep the car from getting smashed. I really can't worry about you than the car, hopefully. But I really want to make sure that you're safe, and the only way I know how to do that is to take the car from you until we can figure out a way for you not to use your phone while you're driving the car. And so I'll take the car away, not indefinitely as a punishment to teach you a lesson, to keep you safe, because that's the only way I know how. Do you hear that? So I might do the exact same thing as a parent who punishes, but my intention is very different and my messaging is very different. And I only do it as a means to an end. Meaning, as soon as my child says, okay, no, I'm not going to use my phone anymore, I promise. Like, that's going to happen. Well, I'll say, no problem, let's try again.
You'll give the consequence and we'll couple it with a discussion.
I don't call it a consequence because consequences are just so confusing to me. They mean so many different things to so many different people. So I call it protective use of force, because the use of force, meaning doing something against my child's will, right? Using force, whether that's physically or otherwise, like taking the car away, I'm using it for protection. I'm using it as to protect. Did you didn't understand something, or you got it? Okay. No problem. But it's a last resort also. That's what I was going to say. Have a discussion. It's a last resort. For a younger child, let me give an example of the younger child. The younger child rides a bike without a helmet. I say you can't ride a bike without the helmet. They ride a bike without a helmet. First time I'll stop them. What's with their helmet? What's uncomfortable? I don't like it. I don't like the color. Whatever. So you buy a new one, you find it more comfortable, whatever. Then your child still doesn't wear it. You'll say, soon as you're ready, we can figure out a way for you to wear a helmet, you can have a backpack. So it's protected use of force. Yes.
So what do you do now with the younger sibling? Can't take away the younger sibling, other sibling,
See, that's the problem with using it as a first resort. And don't use it as a first resort. Right, but here's something, you're mentioning something very important, right? So I don't know if you heard the question, it's about the sibling hitting the other sibling. You can't take the younger sibling away, right? But that's because most of us are so trained to think of protective use of force or consequences as the first line of defense that most of us will go to that immediately. And that's where our brain goes, oh, that's the truth. I use it a lot. As a parent myself, I don't think I've ever used it in the past 2 years. Ever. Because I rely much more on connection, understanding my child's needs, on having conversations, on working things out together, that it doesn't ever come into the picture. Also, a really, really important point is that I really take my child's development into account. This is really, really, really important. Like I discussed, the children's brains develop slowly over time. They do not have the same ability or capacity as you do. The younger they are, the more so, to control their impulses. So when you tell your child, your 3-year-old or 4-year-old or even 5-year-old, you cannot hit, you have to choose. You can choose not to. No, they don't have a choice. They cannot. In certain moments when they're so upset or so their impulses take over, they literally do not have free will. They do not have choice. And so we have to understand that. And we have to take that into consideration. So we have to have compassion for the fact that a child can't control themselves in certain situations. And so even though we have the greatest strategies and we understand their needs and we try to help them, they still will struggle. They will. Just because I have a discussion with my child and not hitting their sibling, they still will next time. And guess what? It's okay. Meaning we have to tolerate our children's development, their messy developments to a certain degree. We have to. If we're going to punish them every single time they do something like that, you know what that is like. I'm sure many of you know, I know what it's like. It's so much when we understand that they're going to outgrow it at a certain point with our help. We have much more patience for it and much more tolerance for it. Many people say, like, I have a zero tolerance policy in my house for this. I'm like, how's that going for you? Right? It doesn't really help to have zero tolerance policies. What happens is that we just end up being angry, punishing parents all the time. And so I would much rather have a healthy and connected relationship with my child and work together with them towards certain things and develop a little bit of a wholesome attitude towards their messy development. The children act like children because they are children. Of course, it doesn't mean that we don't address it, or we don't do something, or we don't put protection in place. Like if two siblings are hurting each other, maybe I'll separate them, or maybe I find strategies around it. But I really, really, really do not like to punish. Yes?
What are your thoughts on forcing kids to share?
Ooh, okay, so what are my thoughts on forcing kids to share? I do not believe in forcing kids to share. Think about it like this. Sharing, by definition, is you choosing to give something to somebody else, right? If somebody comes into my house and says, like, you must give me this, am I sharing it? They're stealing, really, right? That's not sharing, right? And here's another thing to say about stealing, on that note, right? What happens is that's the thing, is that most of us, we don't see things through our child's perspective, we see it through our own. Like, I need to make sure that they can share. They need to know this is important to share, and I need to teach them this to them. But we don't think about it from our child's perspective, understandably so. Our child sees it like this, okay? So they have a bunch of toys, and then a friend comes over, and the friend says, I want that. And so then we say, you need to share, give that to your friend, and they're like, it's mine, but I want it. Like, and so every single thing that they own becomes up for grabs, and anybody can take it. Now what happens? Now, instead of someone comes over and they're like, don't touch! Don't come into my playroom. My daughter used to do that. Because, yeah, if somebody came to your house, and anything in your house would be up for grabs. Like, they can take your purse if they want to, they can take your phone, you need to share. They can take your pot if they want to. Then you would not have any guests over ever. Or you'd be like, don't look, don't touch! Right? So that's what happens with children many times. We force them to share, you become more possessive. Even though they go through a stage where anyone possessive, everything's mine. But they become even more possessive and they hold their stuff even more dear. So, to answer your question, children actually below the age of like 4 or 5 are not really capable of sharing, and it has to do with their development of empathy. However, So I don't believe in forcing them to share, no. I believe in actually encouraging it or helping them along, or also having them understand the other person's perspective. Like, this other person wants your toy. So really the rule in my house, if you're playing with something, it's yours. When you're done with it, then the other person can have it. That to me makes the most sense. Why in the world should a child be forced to give something up for their sibling or somebody else? What is that? It's not sharing. So yeah, so it belongs to you until you're finished, ready to give it up. Now, some children might be like, I'm never giving it up. In 10 days, I'm done with it. That has happened in my house. So we say, oh, 10 days is a very long time, and you really, really want it, so let's take a little shorter time, you know? So then sometimes you might have to arbitrarily create a time, like, oh, in 5 minutes, or something like that, but we really want to be mindful of our child and their experience.
So you encourage it, but not force it.
Yes, yes, and even when I encourage it, like I said, I have different rules, like, if you're playing with it, it's yours, until you're done with it. Yes? You.
What do you do with a toddler that is very strong-willed but also wants to be completely independent? I get out of the way. She wants to go to one of my clubs. I have two twin girls. One of them really wants to be independent in everything. And I don't fight it because it's okay, but until it gets dangerous, you know?
Yes, that was going to be my line. So the question is, my child is really strong-willed and also really wants to be very independent. What do I do? Do I allow them to be? And so my question is, do you allow them to be as independent as is safe, right? And I think it's a great thing that they're trying to be independent. Oh, I love to. It's great that they're trying to be, that they're wanting to be independent. That's actually a wonderful. Children naturally, have this emergence of independence at different stages, and you want to honor that and respect that. It's still, until it's safe, and also, I would also include until it drives you crazy, because you're a person too, and your needs matter as well. And so sometimes it's like, actually, I'm too tired for this. That's okay too, right? So we want to really balance your needs and your child's needs.
So then how do you project?
Oh, you simply say like, oh no, we're not going to be doing that, and your child will be really upset and really sad and maybe angry, and that's okay. And then you welcome the feelings and you say, it's still not happening. Okay,
Baby.
yes.
Sorry, we don't have time to go through all of it, but people submitted a lot of questions.
Okay.
Can I ask two of them that came up a lot?
Sure.
Okay. The first one is, what is the solution if two parents don't agree on the same parenting style?
Okay, yeah, this is probably one of the most common questions I get. It's really, really challenging and really, really, really common because we're two different people and no two people ever think exactly alike. If they do, then one person is not being honest. So it's understandable that you disagree on how to do things. Sometimes the disagreements or the disparity is greater with some couples than others. But here's my belief. Trying to change your spouse, trying to change the other parents, terrible idea. We all try it. Doesn't work, and also it's not really possible. You can't change another person. And so the idea is more we want to maybe inspire, but also not in a connive. Sometimes we inspire, but we're really, trying to control them. But you really want to know, instead just share what's inspiring to you, or like, I heard this idea, and what do you think of it, and does that resonate with you? But also have discussions with your spouse about how to navigate certain things. Like, okay, so if you think that we should punish our child in this situation, and I think we should not, how do we navigate it when it's happening? So let's say you're dealing with a child and you start punishing. My favorite approach is we agree to disagree and respect each other's paths. So let's say my husband thinks that we should punish. He will go ahead and let's say he's dealing with a child, he'll punish the child, and I will stay out of it. And I'll let my husband do his thing, even though I don't agree with it. However, afterwards or anytime, my child can come to me and say like, Daddy's the worst. He just punished me. What is he doing to me? And I will then be the one to empathize, not to agree and say, yeah, Daddy's horrible. I know. I don't think punishing is a great idea either. But more to just understand where my child's coming from. Speaking of connection and empathy, understanding my inner child, my child's inner experience, I'll say, yeah, you really don't like that, huh? You really don't like when that happens. And so that's how I see my role. Is that if we disagree, is that each parent can do what they believe is best, and when they're navigating it, We don't step in, but then we can do whatever we want to help our child through that moment. Now we can have a discussion with your spouse if that's something that works for them. But that's what I find is the best way to navigate these situations. Also, I know many of us, at least I was raised with like, you having to be a united front, so like even if you disagree with your spouse, like pretend that you agree with them in front of your child and say like, yeah, I think, yeah, that was good, they didn't be punished. I think either you can stay neutral, like you don't have a say on it at all, you just understand where your child's coming from, or you can even say, yeah, Daddy and I do things differently. He punishes, but I don't like to do that, and that's okay. Your children can know that trust me, they figured it out already, that you parent differently. You don't have to think that you agree on every single thing, but what's more, what united front to me means that you respect each other and don't undermine one another. And so that's why working together to be like, when you handle it, I won't step in, when you handle it, I won't, but I'll be there for the child. To me, I think that's a great way to do that.
Right. Again, I apologize for everyone who submitted questions. We don't have time to go through all of it, but if you don't mind, one last one that came up a bunch was that people ask that they know that there's a concept of love languages between spouse. Is there a way to connect love languages with your children?
Yeah, absolutely. This is not even my own. So yes, sorry. So people say they know that the 5 love languages from, is it Gary Chapman? Okay. He has those he speaks about them with relationships with adults. Does it apply to children as well? Is there a way to integrate it? And he even talks about this. Absolutely. So the 5 love languages apply to all of us. It's basically a way that we give and receive love. If any of you are not familiar with them, so I'm going to quickly go through them. The first one is physical touch, so that's hugs, kisses, cuddles. The second one is words of affirmation, saying things like, I love you, you're so special to me. I love this about you, that about you. The third one is quality time. That's spending quality time. That means not like spending endless amounts of time, but when you spend time, you're really present. The fourth one is acts of service. This one's really tricky with kids. Acts of service means, let's say with the adult relationship, it's going to pick up stuff from the dry cleaners, or turning the car on, or getting gas, right? With children, what this looks like is picking up the school bag for your child, helping them get dressed, getting water for them. And some children, this actually is their primary love language, meaning that this is their favorite way to receive love. And so those children, I have a child like this, they'll ask you for a lot of those things. Like, can you get me a drink of water? My daughter will literally, she'll be standing next to the sink, like right next to the sink where the water is, and say, can you get me a cup of water? I'm like, but you're there. I know, but can you get it for me? Right? So it's clearly not that she's lazy, it's that she wants that. She wants me to do it for her. So that's her favorite way of receiving love from me. So you get a child like that, you really want to keep that in mind. I used to do the thing of like, no, you do it yourself. You're old enough, you're big enough, you do it. And I used to do a lot of that. And I started becoming more mindful that this can be her way of receiving love. So it doesn't mean every single time I'll do it, but I will be more mindful. And also when I do it, I try to do it in a way that's loving. Like, of course, here you go. So that she receives it as a loving act. So acts of service, and the last one is gifts. Gifts is also tricky with children. Every child loves gifts. But really, gifts is not necessarily like expensive, fancy toys. It's really as simple as just that this thing that you bought is a symbol to me that you thought of me. So let's say you go to the store and you say, I know you love Gatorade, so I bought it home for you, right? So it's, or even making something for them that we can hold on to. All these love languages are ways that children, like I said, give and receive love. And all children, all humans really have 1 or 2 primary ways that they like to. So there's 1 or 2 that are more important to them, or more appreciated by them. So you'll notice, let's say one child will love hugs and kisses, and your other child won't really love it as much, and they'll appreciate much more when you do acts of service for them. And so it's helpful when you tune into what your child's love language is. All of them are. But what is the primary one, so you can do that more for your child, for that specific child. I have so much more to say on it, but I hope that covers it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
So we're actually going to have Mona come on up to draw our raffle. And before, don't leave yet, you might get picked.
You have to be here to win.
Thank you, Mona. And Mona, since you're up here drawing the raffle, we're going to let you take the mic for a minute.
Oh, I got that.
I had nothing to do with this evening. So please do not take me standing here for even one iota of credit. I don't deserve it. Thank you so much. As an educator, there's always something we can learn. I appreciate it. I laughed, validated me as a mom. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the organizers here. So for those of you that know, my name is Mona. I'm the director of Shalom Early Childhood Center. Some of you I grew up with, some of you I see every day, some of you I love seeing right now. So next week, if you're wondering what Elisha was holding before, we are having a groundbreaking open house. Not an open house for real estate, we are doing our first school open house through UMJCA. Our UMJCA with a force. It's not a team of people. There is a force that was put together to blow our minds and build our future the way we want it to be, with a school to call our own. And next Tuesday night, we're doing an open house. There's so much that's been put into it. Again, I cannot take credit for it. I'm a humble part of it. But this school is going to be amazing. Parents are going to be asking themselves, why should I be the guinea pig? Why should I take a chance? Why should my child be the first one to go to this kindergarten program? You're right. Why? Why should you? Look at your spouse that's here next to you. If you didn't go on that first date with your spouse and take a chance, you wouldn't be at a parenting class right now. We all take chances in life. We all take chances that could change your life. We all do it, but we do it because there's a little voice inside you that believes in it, and a little inclination that says, my heart feels right. If you know anything about our community programming, about our community schools, our community summer camps, it's that there's so much heart. When we do something, we are so blessed. Hashem blesses us, and for some reason, it's the right way of doing it. And it's usually because there's a force of volunteers that are putting their heart and souls into everything that we do. So by coming to our open house next week, we do not think that you're officially registering. Do not come and say, you know, I'm kind of curious to go and hear what they're going to be offering because I have a toddler, I might be in kindergarten in 3 years, but if I go, they're going to think I'm registering. It's not like that. You all have to do what's best for you. We just want every single Jewish child, every Jewish child to have a phenomenal Jewish Sephardic education. Those of us that are Sephardic, and if you're not, that's okay, we love you. Come, we'll teach you how to pronunciate your beautiful Tamil. But the truth of the matter is, every single Jewish child deserves a phenomenal education, but we're at a point in our lives that there's a need. It's no longer like, okay, it's cool if we have a school. No. You all know, everyone is going to apply to schools that they're trying to get into. You deserve it. Your kids deserve it. Do it. But you owe it to yourselves and you owe it to your children to come and at least hear what's out there. You have to educate yourselves. The same way when you're going to college. Okay, I took the easy route. I applied to Queens College, thank God I got it, and I went there. I'm not going to lie. But maybe I could have educated myself. And it's important that we all do. So come to the open house. It's going to be a similar layout. We're actually kind of copying you guys, so thank you so much. It's next Tuesday night, November 1st, 7:30 p.m. meat dinner. We might steal some of your dinner options because I love the kebab wrap. But 7:30 p.m. meat dinner, followed by 8 o'clock program. And you're going to have a lot of questions answered. Is every little detail figured out? No. When you're planning a wedding, do you have every little detail figured out until the day before? No. But there is so much that's going into it. You will have your questions answered. And come, bring a friend, bring a family member. It's not just for Shalom parents. This is a UMJCA entity. And it's not just for pre-K prospective parents. This is for parents of tiny tots, pre-toddlers, toddler, nursery, even if you don't have a child at that age, you want to come to homework for your friends, or you want to meet dinner and you want to hang out and see people, come. Thank you so much. Have a good night. We'll see you next Tuesday. I want to draw the raffle, but I really want it to be me. So what happens if I pull my, just kidding. I can't even look at it.
Nushin and Daniel Yabubi.